In terms of the vulnerabilities, I feel we've said as much as we can about that. It is personal, private information, known to the investigation, but foremost in our thoughts, in addition to the integrity of the investigation, is the privacy of Nicola's family. So we've said as much as we can with that.
Shocked when I heard this, because that would have been useful if we'd been given that information in the first place. But I was never briefed that she was a high-risk misper, which I would normally, the information I would be given straight away.
You've telegraphed my next question, Peter. Given that you were clearly very intimately involved in the search, working with the police, would you have expected to have been told that this was the police deemed a high-risk missing person due to a number of specific vulnerabilities?
Yes, I have very high security clearances in place, and I work on complex murder investigations. And normally, the police would take me to one side, brief me, and this is high risk. It mustn't get out to the press, but we need to let you know what we're dealing with here. And I never heard nothing.
And what would that mean? What does that translate that for us?
Yeah, well, a high risk missing person is someone that may come to immediate harm. So that would have maybe changed my search strategy, meaning that Nicola could have walked off herself. She may not have been in a clear state of mind. She could have walked in along the river. She could have been suicidal. It could be many things, Tom. And that would immediately make me potentially cover different areas as well, not just the river around there, but, looking into all sorts of culverts and also look at the trackways in, the trackways out.
Because this bit of information means what to you, Peter? That there might be parts of the river that should have been searched earlier that weren't?
I think, Ray, maybe. I think when you deal with a high risk, a police search advisor is immediately tasked, which they were, and a senior investigating officer was tasked. But again, it's a wide area search. She could have just wandered off in a state. I've spoken to the family in depth, and the family confirmed to me that there was no underlying issues with Nicola. This is from the sister and from Emma and from Paul. They were talking about a spa day the night before, messaging each other, and there was not any inkling that there was anything wrong at that stage.
I just don't see how releasing that piece of information is going to help find her.
No.
And if they were to find her and she is alive, the shame that she's going to feel with that, I mean, I can't really talk about the menopause, but certainly if it's a substance issue, I just think that brings huge amounts of shame into someone's life that you just don't need to share.
We've viewed a substantial amount of CCTV. Again, whilst we can't cover the whole area with CCTV, we've been really fortunate in that we've had a lot, which has really been able to help us in pin down both Nicola's movements and also the movements of key witnesses, which is why we were able to give a timeline of events quite quickly, but reiterating that we were remaining open-minded to all three of those scenarios. So Nicola was last seen in the field, which we've called the upper field, at about 9:10 that morning. At that time, everything seemed normal. She was walking her dog Willow, who was off the lead. And again, a number of issues and inconsistencies have been raised in relation to Willow and her harness. It was really normal for Willow not to have her harness on. They never kept the harness on when they were in that field. The harness would be taken off Willow when they entered the field and would only be put back on when they were ready to leave the field. So at approximately 9:10, a witness that knows her had the last sighting, and that was at the upper field. And when I say an approximate time, it is that, but we are basing that on obviously the times that we can say that witness left the field. So I'm quite confident it is around that time. We then know from digital data that at some time around 9:20, we believe that Nicola's handset had moved towards the bench area. Again, there have been questions raised about her phone, whether that would have been in her possession when whatever happened has happened. But again, I'd just like to point out that it's really normal for Nicola, when in a Teams call, to be holding her phone out in front of her, listening to it. And we can say, from a witness that knows her that morning, that is what she was doing. Derelict house, which is across the other side of the river. That has been searched 3 times with the permission of the owner, and Nicola is not in there. The red van. We're really, really grateful to members of the public for ringing into the inquiry. We wouldn't have got this far without everybody's help. But I think it's also really obvious that we are being inundated with false information, accusations and rumours, which is distracting us from our work. The red van has been reported that it was in the area on the morning of the 27th, like many other hundreds of cars that morning. We're really grateful for the witness who has told us about that, and we are continuing to make inquiries to try and track down that specific van. But from my perspective, being in possession of all the facts and information of this case, I do not believe that to be suspicious, but we are continuing to investigate that so that we can identify whoever was in the area that time to make sure that they can't give us any further information that will assist the investigation. There's also been mention of a number of fishermen that have been seen that morning who again were described as suspicious. I myself don't find it suspicious that fishermen would be in the area of a river that morning or carrying fishing rods. But there was some suggestion that one of these males might have been looking to cover his face. We have made numerous appeals for these fishermen to come forward. We have made contact with the local angling clubs, and we have also ascertained the time of the witness passing down that road and checked the CCTV at the Grapes pub, which covers that end of Garstang Road, and we can't see any of those fishermen at that time on that day. But we are continuing to try and trace these people. Again, I would urge that they are not necessarily suspicious to me, but I'm really keen to trace them to make sure that there's no further information that they can give us that will assist. There has been some mention of CCTV specifically at the caravan sites that hasn't been working and that's suspicious itself. That is not the case. We have been helped and assisted beyond all belief by the caravan owners in this. The whole community wants to find Nicola and wants to give the family the answers that they deserve. Lastly, the family, and they are the most important part of this, and all this speculation and rumour is affecting them. They've got a loving daughter, sister, partner and mother who is missing, and that is my priority and the priority of the investigation team, and always has, and we can't be detracted from that. I have met the family on a number of occasions and will continue to do so, and they are kept through regularly updated throughout with our progress. There are dedicated family liaison officers who speak daily to the family, and only yesterday spent a significant amount of time with Paul. I can assure you that this investigation has been thoroughly investigated, no differently than any other major investigation from the outset, and that my absolute priority is to do everything we can to provide the answers to Nicola's two daughters who need to know where their mummy is. And whilst we have shared information today about specific individual vulnerabilities specific to this case and Nicola, I would ask you to respect the family's privacy in respect of those things. Thank you.
So just a quick one regarding that. I feel like it's very strange how Paul Ansell disclosed to the police about this vulnerability straight away. However, I'm very surprised that he himself has not told Peter, the expert who came up to dive on his request for free. I'm surprised he didn't give him the full story, yet he gave the police the so-called full story. To me, it's maybe covering up something to maybe give an excuse, but they did say that their police were called to the house 3 weeks prior. However, no arrests were made, but it was for a welfare check. Why would there be no arrest made? Why would they state there was no arrest made? If it was purely for her welfare, why would they say that? Obviously, something must have happened where an offence maybe took place, but they said they're investigating further. Anyway, moving on. Tomorrow, Friday, I'm going back to the area and I'm going to investigate for the whole day. I'm going to document on video the whole day, and I'm going to look on the other side of the river and the little tributary as shown in the photo above. And if you watch my previous previous video on the theory of the river, I have a theory that right in the far corner, Nicola may have been taken via the narrow crossing of the river over there. You'll see on the next photo how narrow and how shallow it actually looks. The person may have used a little flimsy blow-up boat to get her across there, and that then leads to Hall Lane, which, if you check on the map, is the direction of Inskip. It's the main road to Inskip where Paul and Nicola live. Okay, so I'm going to check out all of that tomorrow. I'm also going to revisit the area where we felt should be dug up by the police. If anybody has any ideas or requests of what to do tomorrow to help the investigation, or to help find her, basically, please leave a comment. I will read all the comments before I leave tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to spend a whole day there and basically do as much as I can on that day. As the police say, they're not really willing to look at anything else other than the river at the moment. They may say they are, but they're not. At the end of the day, I sent them a photo of that place, which looked a little bit dodgy, like it had been dug up. And I can guarantee when I go back there tomorrow, I guarantee that they haven't touched it. I reckon they haven't. And imagine if somebody was buried there and they eventually find it out, or imagine I find that out tomorrow and they're shown that the evidence that they were given 4 or 5 days ago, they haven't acted on it. That would be really bad. So, as we can see, there's the part of the river I'm talking about, and that part is right in the corner where it goes round a proper like S-bend, U-bend kind of direction, shape. It's very isolated over there, and I'm going to try and show that tomorrow on all the camera footage I can get. But yeah, really, this is just to try and help anybody who also knows the area say, yeah, you know what? I was on that lane yesterday or last week, whatever, and I did actually see a car parked there acting strange, but because the police haven't requested anything from that area, I haven't spoken up. But watching your video, it makes sense that something may have happened, and then they forward that to the police, you know? So that's the idea behind doing it. It's not just to make a video for YouTube for the views, nothing like that. But at the end of the day, the lady is missing. The poor family need answers, and, you know, more eyes are better than one.